Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make the magic meta mad. Now, last night on stream, I'm recording this the day after, we brewed up this deck, and it seemed to maybe have some legs under it, and so I'm kind of interested to do some more testing with it, and we're just going to see what happens. So, as you can see, it's Monoblacktron. The idea with this deck is kind of that you don't need to assemble Tron, it's just beneficial to do so. And really, you're curving out at like 4, 5 for Oblivion Stonecrack, or 6 for Wormcoil. But if you do assemble Tron, we have Worst Fears as a sort of time warp / mind slaver effect, which is really fun. On stream, we killed someone with their own Renin 6. It was great. And we have Ugin kind of as an additional top-end threat. So, what makes Monoblacktron playable as opposed to any other color of Tron? Well, usually when you play like green or blue or any other variation of Tron, you're playing stuff that increases the consistency of assembling Tron. We're not doing that. We're using Tron as a backup game plan and playing almost like a mono-black mid-range type deck, where we're fatal pushing creatures, inquisitioning, and thought seizing our opponent's stuff. But we do have one good consistency tool in black, and that is Wishclaw Talisman. Now, Wishclaw Talisman generally is pretty good. It's 3 mana, get whatever you want from your deck, but then your opponent gets to tutor for something. Wishclaw Talisman actually has this huge synergy with Karn Great Creator, which is very nice. It turns it into 3 mana demonic tutor, and then your opponent, they can't search up anything. So, we actually have a Wishclaw Talisman in the sideboard to wish for, if we, for some reason, needed to do that, if we've already kind of assembled a lock, and we don't want any of our sideboard threats, we want to go get, like, Ugin or something, we can. Other than that, we're kind of playing an Eldrazi Thought-Knot Seer beatdown sort of plan, because that synergizes with our hand hate quite a bit. And I mean, hopefully we can rid our opponent's hand of counterspells and then top it off like a Worst Fear and doing some nasty stuff. Out of the sideboard, we basically just have a standard artifact wishboard. I don't think I forgot anything. Shout at me in the comments if I did. Including a Wishclaw Talisman for artifact wishing. We have Feed the Swarm if we run into any problematic enchantments. Another Thoughtseize, and a Surgical. The Surgical should probably be like a Ravenous Trap or another Tormod script. And honestly, I probably should have a couple of Relic of Progenitus in the main deck. I just don't know what I would cut for them right now. And, I could go down to 1 Worst Fears, but I really don't want to run less than 2. I think the card's great. A lot better than people give it credit for, anyway. I could cut, 1 Wishclaw Talisman and, this Dismember, maybe, and run 2 Relic, but we're going to do some experimentation. We're going to run this through a Modern League, and we're going to see how we do, and make adjustments based on that, determine whether or not this deck is actually viable in the meta, or if it's just kind of a pipe dream or something silly that I dreamed up. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take this into a Modern League. Once I queue up with the right deck, that is. Alright, I will see you all in round 1. Round 1, here we go. Well, we don't have black mana, but we do have Tron into Wormcoil, so I'm going to keep. If we get Assassin's Trophied, Ghost Quartered, Field of Ruined, our game plan is not over. We can still, Inquisition and start doing stuff like that. Okay. Opponent starts Watery Grave, Delver of Secrets. We draw Natural Tron. So play Power Plant, play Expedition Map. Pass the turn. Opponent might be a little confused if we tutor for a basic Swamp off of Expedition Map. I mean, on the level of lands to tutor for, I think basic Swamp would be the least likely thing expected from Expedition Map. My opponent did just pick up a Force of Negation, and they have revealed Luris, so it looks like they're kind of like Esper Delver, maybe, or just Dimir Delver. Okay. An opponent plays an Ascendant Spirit. Alright. Well, I would actually like to draw a Swamp here. Okay, I get another Inquisition, so Players is mine. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Hollowed Fountain. Okay, so it is Esper Delver. They hit us for 4. We go to 13. Get a Swamp. Untap. We draw another Wormcoil, so I am going to try and jam Wormcoil here. Okay, opponent opts. Worm Coil resolves. So as long as my opponent doesn't have a bounce spell, we've stabilized. Which, I mean, they could totally have like a cryptic command here. Okay, they play an Ice Tunnel. They attack for 3, we go to 10. We untap, draw Karn. Alright, go to combat. Attack for 6. No blocks by the opponent. We go up to 16, they go down to 9. Start Inquisition. Opponent hard casts Force of Negation. Okay. Play a second Worm Coil and hope for no Echoing Truth. Game's over. Inquisition was pretty good. I mean, like, because we were going to follow this up with Worst Fears. Okay, so versus Delver, I feel like we're going to need Feed the Swarm just as additional creature removal. Thoughtseize is less good. So is probably Oblivion Stone. So I'm going to cut an Oblivion Stone, and I'm going to cut 1 Thoughtseize, bring in 2 Feed the Swarm. I'm going to try it like that. I mean, that worked pretty good. That was just Tron threat backed up with Hand Hate, so it seems like a fair game plan to me. Okay, game 2. Well, we've got a Fatal Push opener into a Wishclaw Talisman. We can Wishclaw for Eldrazi Temple. I'm going to try keeping this. I don't think it's good. We could top deck a map. That would be great. If my opponent plays a turn 1 Delver, and they almost certainly will, there's a question of whether or not we should Fatal Push on our turn, and I think we should Fatal Push on our opponent's upkeep. Opponent did mulligan to 6. They fetch up a Watery Grave. They start Mishra's Bauble. They take a look. Then they play a Delver. Okay? We untap, draw a Power Plant. I think Fatal Pushing on my turn is fine, because if my opponent dumps 2 cards for a Force, they're going to be very low on cards in hand. I think Force of Negation is actually fine here if they want to cast it. So, alright. Opponent untaps. They draw a card, they play Flooded Strand, they crack it. I think the biggest problem here is if my opponent has a... well, I mean, Bitter Blossom's annoying, but I think my real concern was more of, like a Gurmag Angler type threat. Play Wishclaw Talisman, pass the turn. Opponent is doing a deep think on that. They untap, they get a token. Opponent opts. Plays a Mystic Sanctuary tapped. We untap. We draw a Worm Coil Engine. Play an Urborg to play around Spell Pierce. Inquisition. Opponent has Archmage's Charm, Opt, and Snapcaster Mage. So take Archmage's Charm. I've played a land this turn, which is a little bit unfortunate. Alright, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait until our next turn to do that. So opponent casts Opt. You know they have Snapcaster, 1 unknown. Bitter Blossom token. Okay, opponent plays a Delver. Still Snapcaster, 1 unknown. They hit us for 1. We untap. We draw Inquisition. If I cast Inquisition, they almost certainly dump Snapcaster. So I'm going to activate Wishclaw Talisman. We are going to get an Eldrazi Temple. Play the Temple. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Take a look at our opponent's hand. Force of Negation and Snapcaster Mage. I mean, I'm not too scared of Force of Negation at this point. I think Snapcaster Mage provides too much utility. So I'm going to take Snapcaster Mage. Pass the turn. So my opponent, if they want, can Demonic Tutor for 1 mana. They get a Bitter Blossom token. They did not flip Delver. They are holding Force, 1 unknown. Honestly, I'd like to draw another Thought-Knot Seer. Opponent attacks for 2 in the air. Take 2. Second Bitter Blossom. Okay, we untap. We draw a Chromatic Sphere. So we know our opponent's last card in hand is Force of Negation, so I'm just going to take it. I could have played Karn there, but Karn would probably have just died. Play Sphere. Crack Sphere for black. Play Star. Crack Star for black. Trying to hit a land. Okay, well we hit an Inquisition, so we'll hold on to that. Go to combat. Hit our opponent for 4. They'll probably block with a Fairy Rogue. Okay? Opponent untaps, they lose 2 life, they make 2 fairies, and Delver may flip here. Delver did not flip. Okay, they draw a card. They put Luris into their hand. They play an Ice Tunnel. Attack for 3. Take 3, go to 14. We untap. We draw Expedition Map. So, actually, go to combat. Attack for 4. Opponent chumps. Inquisition Luris. Play Expedition Map. Immediately crack map. Get an Urza's Mine. Play Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. Any land gets us to Wormcoil next turn now. Okay. Opponent loses 2 life, makes 2 tokens. I think we're only going to have a problem if Delver flips, really. And actually, if I draw Urza's Tower, I'm probably just playing Karn. Okay, opponent attacks us for 4, we go to 10. Okay, opponent activates Wishclaw Talisman. Well, now we know we can get Tron. Maybe I should just, like, get Tron, like, wish for Walking Ballista or something. I don't know if opponent wished for a land or if they wished for Cryptic Command. I imagine they wished for Cryptic Command. So we untap. We draw Worst Fears. Activate this ability only on your turn. Doesn't have to be at sorcery speed. Okay, go to combat. Attack for 4. Opponent blocks. Activate Wishclaw Talisman. Get Urza's Tower. Play the tower. So we have 9 mana. My opponent almost certainly is holding a counterspell of some kind. The problem right now is that if I play Karn, I don't really have anything I can wish for that helps. If anything gets countered, I suppose I want it to be Worst Fears. Archmage's Charm. Okay, that's not Cryptic Command. That's actually not as bad. So opponent untaps, makes 2 more fairies. Does finally flip Delver, revealing Archmage's Charm. Okay, that's bad news. Hits us for 7, we go to 3. If only we could do 3 damage to them this turn. Can we draw Chromatic Star? Play Karn. This should get countered. Actually, this doesn't do anything, so it's not going to get countered. They would counter Walking Ballista if I wished for it. Can I do anything about this? Oh, yeah, I can. I can try and hit Hand Hate off of Chromatic Star. Filter for black. Draw another Urza's Tower. Okay, so we spent 1 mana to get 3 more. It's kind of like a Dark Ritual. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. So no matter what I take, it's going to get countered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. I should have played out Wormcoil sooner. I could get Relic for a redraw. That's actually probably the cheapest thing I can do. We don't have any uncounterable threats is the problem. I need to get something my opponent will counter and then somehow play Walking Ballista. I cannot empty my hand for Ensnaring Bridge, even if I could cast it. I suppose I could play a Wishclaw Talisman. I still don't have any uncounterable threat, not that would get through an Archmage's Charm, but it could get me Hand Hate. I could guarantee Hand Hate that way. So, in the hypothetical world where I get Wishclaw Talisman, I play out Wishclaw Talisman, which costs me 2 of my 8 mana. I go to 6. I activate it. I go to 5. I play a Hand Hate spell. I go to 4, and then I can't do anything. If I could just kill these 2 Fairy Rogues, that would also win. But that requires Ballista. Wishclaw Talisman could get me Fatal Push, but that kills only 1. I don't have anything that can kill 2, other than Oblivion Stone. Okay, I think the math changes slightly if I take Relic. I have 8 mana right now. I can take Relic, play it, crack it, and I get a draw, and I'll be at 6 mana. No, that doesn't change the mana at all. So, play Walking Ballista X2. Yep. Alright, well, I thought long and hard about it. If you saw something I missed for that game, let me know. I forgot we were going to a game 3 here. I thought that was game 3. Being on the play. Thoughtseizes might help on the play. If my opponent's playing, actually Feed the Swarm's good versus Bitter Blossom because it can hit enchantments. I think I'm going to trim a Worst Fears to bring 1 Thoughtseize back in. Worst Fears is great, but versus a deck that's 90% counter spells that hit Worst Fears and 1% threats that'll kill you before Worst Fears come down, Yeah. Alright, I'd like to play first. Well, it's a very Tron-like hand, but it doesn't do anything. We get some redraws. We'll try it. I floated the idea on stream that maybe this should be Golgari Tron, just to run Ancient Stirrings. But I don't think you want to run 2 colors and Tron unless you're playing blue-white Tron, and then you're only playing white to flashback on Burial Rites, so... Okay, opponent starts no threat. Interesting. Okay. Filter star into black. Draw a card. Talisman of Resilience. Play tower. Play Talisman. This probably gets spell snared. Or not. Then play Sphere. Pass the turn. So opponent probably kept a Bitter Blossom hand. That's what I'm imagining. Well, if they tap out for a Bitter Blossom and we play a Worm Coil here, that's probably going to be game over unless they have some kind of bounce spell like Cryptic Command or Echoing Truth. Blue-white, Lavinia. Each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with CMC greater than the number of lands they control. Okay, well, it's a good thing we have only creature threats. Filter Sphere into black. We get a Thought-Knot Seer. Play a Power Plant. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Yeah, Lavinia strangely does not work against us. We have almost no non-creature threats. Okay, so opponent has Kaya's Guile, Opt, Remand, Tyrant Scorn. So Kaya's Guile is an Edict. Tyrant Scorn is actually way more annoying. They have a Remand, but that doesn't really do anything. It delays us by a turn. Kaya's Guile making a sack Worm Coil Engine gives us tokens. I think we take the Unsummon. I think the Unsummon is actually the worst thing for us. So pass the turn. Yeah, if you had asked me to guess what cards were in my opponent's deck based off of games 1 and 2, I would not have guessed Kaya's Guile, Lavinia. Nothing of the sort. Alright, so opponent passes, leaving up Remand. We draw a Power Plant. Try to bait out the Remand. Okay. Play a Swamp. Kill Lavinia. Go to combat. Attack for 4. Now my opponent has to decide between, if they have a land, either casting Kaya's Guile and trying to take us off of our threat, or playing Lavinia, basically to try and lock us off of our Tron mana. Okay, they have chosen Kaya's Guile, or potentially, like, opt into an unsummon effect of some kind. Nope, Lavinia was more important. They crack Polluted Delta, get a snow-covered island, and play an Ascendant Spirit. Alright, they decided they needed to pressure us. We untap and draw a Thought-Knot Seer. Well, unfortunately, we cannot stop our opponent from casting Kaya's Guile at any point. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack to keep the pressure on. Okay, they don't block, so they go to 7. Then we play Worm Coil. Yeah, I think my opponent's deck would actually have been utterly brutal if we had been playing, like, standard Big Karn, maxed out on, like, gigantic Planeswalker threats, like Ugin and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, they're playing, like, Force of Negation, they're playing Lavinia to try and slow us down, and most of our biggest threats are non-creature. So, alright, so they can upgrade Ascendant Spirit into a 2/3. We untap and draw another tower. Play tower. Play Worm Coil. This should force them to cast Kaya's Guile right now. And they're going to make a 1/1. Okay, in this instance, I'm going to sack Thought-Knot Seer. Normally I was going to sack Worm Coil Engine, but I want to gain life because I don't think my opponent can handle that very well. Their other removal spells in hand are going to be, well, at least one of them is an Edict. This guarantees at least a lifelink connection. Next turn we can attack with 2 resilient threats and follow up with Thought-Knot Seer. I feel kind of proud that the opponent's Tron hate of choice did not hate out this variation of Tron. Okay, opponent plays a Scalding Tarn and passes. We untap. We draw another Urza's Tower. Go to combat. Attack for 12. So I imagine this is the Kaya's Guile right now, forcing us to sack, making a 1/1 to block and buy time. Yep. Okay. Well, sack a Worm Coil Engine. Get 2 tokens. So they have 3 cards in hand, none of which we know. They chump. We go to 29. Okay, second main. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Unearth. Unearth cycles, but doesn't really do anything here. Archmage's Charm can allow them to gain control of the Death Touch token. That's actually an issue. So we'll take an Archmage's Charm from them. Pass the turn. I'm going to hold on to Urza's Tower, make them think I've got something. Alright, opponent untaps. Honestly, off the top, I would love to draw a, like a Thoughtseize. Force them to do something before I attack. Alright, we untap. We draw a Fatal Push. Okay, that pretty much negates the thing I was worrying about. So, go to combat. Kill that worm. Okay, Archmage's Charm fizzles. Declare attackers. And the game is over. We won a match! Monoblacktron, it's real! It's real! We beat Esper Delver, which I'm not sure is real, but it looked real, so this deck is real by the transitive property of algebra. So, I'll see you guys in round 2. Alrighty, round 2, here we go. Alright, well, we can at least start with an Inquisition, which might help delay our opponent a little bit. Fatal Push will as well, depending on what my opponent's playing, that is, of course. Opponent starts Verdant Catacombs, passes. We draw Worst Fears, so play a Swamp, Inquisition. Valky, Demonic Dread, Kolagon's Command, Liliana. So if my opponent were to cast Valky, what happened? They reveal their hand. For each opponent, exile a card they revealed. Exile a creature card they revealed this way until it leaves the battlefield. Alright. We're going to take Demonic Dread. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Verdant Catacombs. Finds a Blood Crypt tapped. Plays another Verdant Catacombs. Cracks it. Did they keep an opener with Gemstone Caverns? No, they were first. They played first. I was going to say, hang on. Did they just not Gemstone us? So they fetch and shock. Alright, and then they play Liliana. So we're going to discard Worst Fears. I feel like that's not something we're going to get to play very quick. Opponent discards a Gemstone Caverns. We untap. We draw a Chromatic Star. So play Urza's Mine, play the star, pass the turn. Opponent plays Valky. Okay, well we have no creature cards, so they cannot take any creatures. Opponent passes without ticking up Liliana. Interesting. Sack Star for black. Push Valky. Untap. We draw a Chromatic Sphere. Play Tower. Play Sphere. Pass the turn. Okay. Opponent untaps. Oh, they played this Liliana. We don't actually know. I'm going to discard Wastes here. I'm going to keep the Swamp. Opponent discards Demonic Dread. Sack Star for black. Well, that's nice. We untap. Man, if we could draw Worst Fears and steal our opponent's Liliana ult, I can't imagine a more cathartic feeling. Because it's target player. We could put all of their permanents in one pile and make them sack them. That would be insane. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play Karn. Then we're going to Wish. And we're going to take Trinisphere. Play Talisman of Resilience. Then play Trinisphere because my opponent is locked on 2 mana currently. So they can tick up Liliana, make us discard. They're going to have to discard, and that's fine. They discard Violent Outburst. So we untap. We draw a Chromatic Star. Wish. We get a Walking Ballista. Play a Walking Ballista, X4. Ping Lily so she doesn't ult. Then pass the turn. If my opponent downticks Lily to make us sack, we just kill Lily. If they uptick Lily, it doesn't matter. Okay. Opponent discards another Violent Outburst. Passes. We untap. We draw Dismember. Animate Talisman. Go to combat. Kill Lily. Oh, whoops. Yeah, technically that was a play mistake. I could have just put a counter on and... yeah. Pass the turn. Leave up Dismember. And next turn, we're going to wish for Sundering Titan and make our opponent's lands go away at the cost of our own Karn. I could have put a counter on there, didn't matter. And we win! Wow. Alright, Thoughtseize Surgical in the deck. Probably... ooh, what do we take out here? Like a Fatal Push and maybe like an Ugin or an O-Stone? I think I'm going to actually drop Ugin. Yeah, I'm going to drop Ugin. I'm going to keep Worst Fears in the deck. Oh man, if we could just obliterate Cascade decks like this, that's fantastic. If this was a Swamp, I would consider keeping, but it is not. Alright, I mean, yeah, triple Inquisition. It seems to be pretty good versus a deck like my opponent's. So my opponent starts Blood Crypt tapped. We untap. We draw a Chromatic Star. Inquisition. Let's see, my opponent has Blood Moon, Bone Crusher Giant, and Violent Outburst. Take Violent Out. Well, no, take Blood Moon, or not Blood Moon, Bone Crusher Giant. Pass the turn. Bone Crusher Giant, they could stick an Exile next turn and we wouldn't have another opportunity. Opponent plays Verdant Catacombs, passes, we untap, draw a swamp, play a swamp, Inquisition. Take Violent Outburst. Inquisition. Take Seasoned Pyromancer. Leave him with Blood Moon. Pass the turn. Oh, this feels dirty. But we're doing it to somebody who's cascading into Tybalt, so we have the moral high ground here. Opponent fetches up a basic forest. Probably just play Wooded Foothills, crack it, and then cast Blood Moon, right? Like, get another basic forest, maybe? You got it, opponent. Alright, we untap. We draw Wishclaw Talisman, so play Urborg. Play Wishclaw Talisman. Play Chromatic Star. Pass the turn. I'm not activating Wishclaw Talisman because God knows what my opponent actually has right now. We draw Power Plant. Sack Star for black. We draw a Mine, play Power Plant, play Star. Well, next turn we can tutor up Karn and play Karn, so I think we might be on that plan. I'm not going to sack Star. We're going to wait. Pass the turn. We might need it to animate like a blocker. Opponent plays a Wooded Foothills. Seasoned Pyromancer dumps their hand and draws 2 cards. Sure. Alright, we untap. We draw Urza's Tower. So play Urza's Mine. Activate Wishclaw Talisman. Get Karn, the Great Creator. Play Karn. Uptick, animating Chromatic. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. It's important to note they don't have black mana. So they can't cast Liliana, they can't cast Valky, they can't cast Tybalt. I mean, they could Cascade here, that would be bad. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks Karn. So we chump. We draw a card. Ooh. Worst Fears. Oh, Worst Fears would be insane if we can cast it. So next turn we have 6 mana. I feel like we just get Wormcoil. Because, like, what is our opponent going to do if we play a Wormcoil, right? I mean, I guess if they play a land, we're at risk of them maybe playing, like, a Swamp and casting Valky, but we're not that far from Sundering Titan either. I mean, I could get Coding, but then Karn takes 2, we'd uptick to 3 to blow up a land and have no way to protect Karn. Is my opponent talking to me? No, okay. Cool. Opponent is in the Deep Thought Tank. The Think Tank. They play a Verdant, then they pass the turn. We untap. We draw Chromatic Sphere. So play Tower. Wish. Get a Wormcoil Engine. Play Wormcoil. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent exiles a Seasoned Pyromancer from the grave to make some tokens. They untap. They play Chandra, Torch of Defiance. They uptick hitting Bloodbraid Elf, but they can't cast Bloodbraid Elf, thankfully. We take some damage. Opponent does not attack. We draw an Expedition map. Okay, so we play out Chromatic Sphere. Play out Expedition map. Go to combat. Actually, do we attack here? It feels kind of like we should attack. Yeah, go to combat. Attack Chandra. Okay, opponent chumps with Seasoned Pyro. We gain 6, go up to 24. We've not played a land yet, so tutor up a Swamp. Play the Swamp. Wish. I miscalculated because I forgot that they can attack past bridge. So in this scenario, I think I need to get Walking Ballista, actually, or Pithing Needle, and Pithing Needle Chandra. We have to keep Karn alive, because otherwise they can Wishclaw Talisman, so we're going to get Ballista and play it on 1. Alright, pass the turn. Next turn we have 2 draws for a land. So this is actually just exiled, it can't be played. Opponent uptick Chandra. They hit Violent Outburst. Okay. So Violent Outburst. They hit Valky. Cast Valky. Opponent goes to combat. They attack Karn, attack Karn. Well, Karn's gonna die regardless, so... I mean, we could block and then shoot the other one. Yeah. Alright, we're gonna do that. Block here. kill an elemental. Alright. Okay, opponent is going to exile Wormcoil Engine. That is a problem. They play a Gemstone Caverns. I am going to sack Star for black right now. We draw Fatal Push. Fatal Push. Okay. Untap. Draw Thought-Knot Seer. That is not good. And that's not good because we don't really have an answer to what's going on now, and I sided out Ugin for some reason. So, what can we do here? We can wish... I can actually wish for Wormcoil and replay it. I can't wish for Walking Ballista, unfortunately. That would be nice. I cannot play Thought-Knot because I don't have a colorless mana source. I cannot wish for O-Stone because I kept O-Stone in the deck. I could wish for Wishclaw. I have 7 mana, then I could pay 3 and get a 4-drop. But I don't know what that would be. And if I wish for anything, I unlock Wishclaw Talisman for my opponent. Sundering Titan doesn't do a whole lot here. I could wish for Bottled Cloister, but then my artifacts are probably just going to stay exiled forever. Yeah, I think I've lost. I don't actually think there's anything I can do here. I'm going to go ahead and concede, and we're going to go to game 3. Yeah, we're going to bring Ugin in and drop O-Stone. That's the adjustment we're making. Oh, I probably should bring in a Feed the Swarm over the Surgical Extraction. So I'm going to do that. At least so we do have an answer for Blood Moon. If we needed an answer for Blood Moon, it's somewhere in the deck. I would like to play first. Okay, well we get to start with a Thoughtseize. So my opponent also kept 7. Play a Swamp. Thoughtseize my opponent. Seasoned Pyromancer, Simian Spirit Guide, Valakut Awakening, and Chandra. I think I take away Spirit Guide here. I don't want them playing their stuff a turn early. So go ahead and pass. Opponent plays a Wooded Foothills and passes. We untap. We draw a Chromatic Sphere. Play Power Plant. The question is, do we crack and redraw, or do we play Wishclaw? I think we actually play Wishclaw here. Pass the turn. We have to be very careful if we're going to activate it. So opponent cracks Wooded Foothills, probably finds like a Blood Crypt or a Stomping Ground tapped. Blood Crypt tapped. Opponent untaps. I think best possible top deck at the moment would be Eldrazi Temple, because then we could play Thought-Knot and disrupt our opponent. They drew another Simian Spirit Guide. They play Seasoned Pyromancer. They discard Chandra and Valakut Awakening. So we know they're holding a Wooded Foothills, and they have a bunch of unknown cards. We draw another Thought-Knot. So play Chromatic Sphere. Crack for black. Draw another Wishclaw Talisman. I hate to do this, but Wishclaw Talisman, activate. Get Eldrazi Temple. Play Eldrazi Temple. Play Chromatic Star. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They go to combat. They attack us for 4. We go down to 14. They play Wooded Foothills. Other than a Cascade spell, Liliana would be terrible for us here. We untap. Draw a Swamp. Play a Swamp. Play Thought-Knot. Take a look at my opponent's hand. Valky, Kolaghan's Command, Bone Crusher Giant. Valky is not that big of a deal. Kolaghan's Command might be. Bone Crusher Giant is annoying and would allow them to kill Thought-Knot Seer, but so would Kolaghan's Command. Kolaghan's Command could pick up a Simian Spirit Guide. I think we take the Giant. Not 100% on that one. Okay, I'm actually going to crack Star for black because we have so many 1-drops in this deck. Okay, play map. Probably should have done that first. But if my opponent wants to Kolaghan's Command destroying map, that's fine. Okay, opponent fetched up a forest. They might just make us... Well, okay, never mind. I was going to say, they might make us discard and destroy map, but... Opponent is activating Wishclaw Talisman. for a land. They go to combat. We're not going to block and make them have an easy decision for Thought Knot. What they wanted to do was have us block and then 2 damage to Thought Knot and destroy Wishclaw. Which, if they destroy Wishclaw and make us discard, or they destroy Wishclaw and pick up a Simian Spirit Guide, or just do 2 damage to our face, that's fine. If they wait until our turn, we can activate it in response. Maybe this deck really does need a Mind Shatter. They're going to make us discard and destroy Wishclaw. Okay, so we are going to... I think we discard Worst Fears here. We're going to be a while before we can actually cast it, so... we may have better options. Alright, we untap. We draw. Wormcoil. Crack Map. Get an Urza's Mine. And yes, I know my opponent has a Blood Moon, but this is still what we need to do here. Play Thought Knot Seer. Get another look at my opponent's hand. Maelstrom Pulse, absolutely gotta go. Oh, that would have been horrible. Go to combat. Hit my opponent for 4. Alright. They can take Valky and exile Wormcoil, or they can play Valky and exile Wormcoil, which would be terrible for us. Hopefully we top deck a land here. Oh, never mind. They had a land, so they can play Valky. They get to take Wormcoil from us, and they're very close to turning Valky into a Wormcoil, so we're going to have to do something about that. We untap. We draw Thoughtseize, which is now useless. Alright, go to combat. Attack for 8. See what our opponent does. Okay. They triple block and then take 4. They get to draw a card. Hopefully it is not a land. Demonic Dread. Well, take Demonic Dread. Play Wishclaw Talisman. Pass the turn. We're not activating this turn. We need them to not draw a land, otherwise we're in huge, huge trouble, because they can just start turning Valky into a, Oh no, it's a Wormcoil! Alright. Untap. We draw Chromatic Star. So now we definitely have to wish for Karn. And then protect Karn. We don't have anything we can use to exile Wormcoil, unfortunately. So yeah, Karn, Great Creator. Play Karn. And then we're going to wish for Ensnaring Bridge. Pass the turn. We're going to have to block with Thought Knot. It's... life's not looking too great right now. Opponent goes to combat. Attacks us. We got to block. And then our opponent passes. We draw Wishclaw Talisman. So... play Wishclaw Talisman. Wish for a land. Just a basic swamp. Actually, a basic wastes, I imagine. Play wastes. Play Ensnaring Bridge. And now we wish. And let's get Liquimetal Coating. Pass the turn. We have to fade Artifact Destruction or Valky. Or not Valky, but Cascade. If my opponent has a Violent Outburst, it's game over. They stomp Karn. Alright, it's game. Ugh. That's really frustrating. Because they can just wish up Kolagon's Command Destroy Bridge and kill us. We drew Wormcoil at the wrong time. If my opponent was stuck with just a Valky, we would have been totally okay. So, I feel like we generally have a decent matchup against our opponent's deck. We just got a little bit unlucky. And that's gonna happen, so. We did win a game against the dreaded Tybalt Cascade deck, so. I'll take that as a moral victory. I will see you guys in round 3. Alrighty, welcome back to round 3. Now, I may look different. This is because I had to give Porter a bath. That involves a lot of splashing. And, so it necessitated a change of clothes. This is not a keepable hand. We are mulliganing to 6. This is not really a keepable hand either. We have an early Dismember, but that's about all this hand does. So I think I'm actually going to go to 5. Yeah, we're going to 5. Alright, we'll keep 5, and I think it's going to be Karn, Fatal Push, 3 lands. Start Swamp. Leave up Fatal Push, pass the turn. We're against some kind of Lurrus deck. So this is probably Hammer Time, if they're playing Marsh Flats. Basic Plains. Memnite. Mem Nizzle. Up. Full Art Memnite. Paradise Mantle. Then they equip. I wonder if I should push that now to deny my opponent mana next turn. I think I'm going to. On the off chance that could matter. We untap. We draw Expedition Map. Players is mine. Play Expedition Map. Pass the turn. Oh, man. My back feels like it needs to pop all of a sudden. It's not good. It felt like that earlier today, and I used a foam roller, but it didn't really do anything for me. Not like it normally does, anyway. Ah, Pure Steel Paladin. We did, in fact, keep our opponent off of Metalcraft, which could have potentially been disastrous. So play Chromatic Star. We're going to cycle for black, and if we don't draw Tron land or removal, we'll crack map. We get a sphere. Yeah. We're going to activate map. Sphere crack for like 1 mana removal or something could potentially be very good, but get a power plant. Pass the turn. If we can play Karn next turn and our opponent hasn't equipped yet, they can't activate abilities of equipment, which means they can't equip. And then we could blow up Paradise Mantle. Opponent shocks Godless Shrine. That's not a good sign. We could also animate the hammer into a 1/1, and they can't equip an animated artifact. Opponent plays Sigarda's Aid. Okay, there's a good chance I'm actually dead. Cranial Plating. Opponent gets to draw. They do get to attach it to something. Okay, they're going to attach it to Pure Steel Paladin. So they're hitting us for 6 at least. 7 in total. Okay, we go to 12. So, okay, opponent equips Paradise Mantle. We draw Talisman of Resilience. So play Power Plant. Play Karn. We could blow up Paradise Mantle, but I don't think that's prudent. I think we just animate Cranial Plating into a creature. It does turn it into a 2/2, but that removes 2 power from my opponent's board. Karn should survive at 1. Unless my opponent can equip another equipment. They can play and attach equipment with Sigarda's Aid, so Karn is not quite as good here as he was. Okay, opponent sacks Silent Clearing to draw. Please no equipment. We need to dodge equipment. They only have 1 mana here. Opponent goes to combat. Presumably they attack Karn for 5. Unless they have a Colossus Hammer, in which case they just attack us and kill us. Karn, Karn, Karn. Okay. Karn goes to 1. Opponent plays a Marsh Flats, cracks a Marsh Flats for plains. And a second Pure Steel. We untap. We draw Chromatic Star. Let me think. Play Star. Sack Star for black. Draw Ugin. Play Sphere. I could have animated a blocker, but I don't think that kept us alive. Or it doesn't keep Karn alive, anyway. Sack Star for black. We get a Mine. Play a Mine. Play a Talisman. I could animate a Talisman as a blocker and threaten to trade with Pure Steel. But then Talisman dies and my opponent just like equips something huge. So we're going to kill Paradise Mantle here. Because it stops my opponent from having double black. If that matters... No, I guess that doesn't matter. It would only matter if they had First Strike. If they had First Strike and they could kill Karn, then between damage steps, they could black attach Cranial Plating to something, and then deal damage to us. We're basically hoping to draw an Urza's Tower now. So opponent kills Karn, attacks us. Okay, they're playing around a single piece of removal. That's fair. We take 1, go to 11. Problem is, even if I could play Ugin, it wouldn't actually be that good. We can take out the Pure Steels, and then that would stop them from equipping, but, like, they're drawing a bunch of cards here. I guess I could take out Pure Steels and Sigarda's Aid, so as long as they don't suit up a hammer this turn, we're fine. But this still implies we're drawing Tower. Or Expedition Map. Expedition Map would do it. Same with Wishclaw Talisman. All of those things work. So we actually had a pretty reasonable number of things we could draw there. Pass the turn. Alright, opponent untaps. Plays a Stoneforge Mystic. Well, I believe we're dead. I think all my opponent has to do is just equip to the Hexproof Pure Steel. Play Bauble for some reason. Yep, and they equip Cranial Plating. They go to combat. Swing out at us. Play Hammer. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna bring in... Feed the Swarm. And I'm gonna bring that in over, I think, a Worst Fears and maybe both Worst Fears. Controlling my opponent doesn't give me a lot of opportunities to do anything with my opponent's deck specifically. I could bring in another Thoughtseize if I thought it mattered. Yeah, I think this is fine. Feed the Swarm is at least decent against my opponent, because it doesn't cost that much, and all of their stuff costs almost 0. So, like, at most, I'm killing a Pure Steel, and that taking 2 damage. At least, I'm killing a... Well, I could kill a Memnite and not lose any life, but I could also kill a Sigardazade and lose only 1 life, which seems like a pretty decent rate versus my opponent's deck. Alright, we'll play first. Well, a bunch of Wishclaw Talismans, but I don't think that's good for this hand. Okay, I can work with this. We have access to Fatal Push early, along with like Chromatic Star for redraw, Talisman of Resilience. Hopefully we can ramp into a Karn. I'm going to put back Wormcoil here, and we're going to start Swamp Chromatic Star. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Silent Clearing into Ornithopter, Ornithopter, Paradise Mantle. Opponent is thinking about equipping. They play Sigardazade. Okay. Well, in that case, we will not be Fatal Pushing anything yet. Draw Expedition Map. Play Urborg. Sack Star for black. Draw a card. We draw Ugin. Play Talisman. Pass the turn. I don't know why they didn't play Sigardazade, then Paradise Mantle, and suit up something. Seems like it was a mistake. Okay, opponent plays a Memnite. Okay, they equip Ornithopter. And they play Colossus Hammer. Okay, they get to equip another Ornithopter. They go to combat. They attack. So, push the Thopter. I like the image of this tiny Ornithopter carrying this massive hammer scraping across the top of a building at me, and I just push it off a cliff. Just push it off the side of a building. That seems silly to me. Alright, play map. Crack map. Get, I guess, an Urza's Mine. Play Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. I think it would be better, it may have been better if I've got an Eldrazi Temple, but there's no time like the present to start assembling Tron, I guess. Okay, opponent plays Pure Steel, so they can equip the hammer this turn onto a Memnite. We take 11. Go to 8. Can we untap and draw Thought Knot? Same plan as last time, we're going to animate the hammer into a 1/1. Pass the turn. The good news is we've denied them a mana. The bad news is we're dead to a second hammer. Order quit licking. Okay, opponent Steel Shaper's Gift for Colossus Hammer. They don't have a second mana, though, so presumably, well, they're thinking about it. They're attacking us for 4. Okay, we take 4. Yep, you can't cast the hammer. Can't cast the hammer because Ornithopter can't tap for mana. Take 4. Opponent definitely should have attacked Karn there. That was a mistake. We untap. We draw Chromatic Star. So 4 mana or less, what do we get? I want a Walking Ballista and kill Pure Steel, but if I do that, we're dead to Memnite. I suppose I have to play Thought Knot Seer and take the hammer from them. I wish I had a way to get a land first. Play Thought Knot Seer. Alright. Take Colossus Hammer. So we know our opponent is holding Stoneforge, Mystic, Sigarda's Aid. Kill Paradise Mantle. Pass the turn. If I had had Chalice there, it might have been worth wishing for Chalice. Opponent drew a Memnite. Okay, now we can pretty safely get Walking Ballista. Or Trinisphere. Could get Trinisphere and then my opponent not be able to play anything. Not for a very long time, anyway. So my opponent playing a second Sigarda's Aid. Yep. Okay. So we untap. We draw Expedition Map. Okay, play map. Crack map, get Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Wish with Karn. We're gonna get Liquid Metal Coating. Play Coating. And then we're gonna shut off their land on their upkeep. So this way, even if they draw a land, they can't play Stoneforge. They also can't cycle their Silent Clearing if that's something they want to do for some reason. Okay, opponent plays an Ink Moth, so they did draw a land. They pass. We untap. We draw a Chromatic Star. So from this position, I could wish for Wishclaw Talisman, play it, activate it, have 7 mana. I don't actually think that's worth doing. I think we cycle some Chromatic Stars here to see if we can't draw Tower. Because if we can draw Tower, we just play Ugin and it's game over. Sack for black. Feed the Swarm. Does that change anything? That kills Pure Steel, but it might kill us. Play Chromatic Star. Sack for black. Another Urza's Mine. Alright, play the Mine. We can just feed the Swarm the Memnite to be safe. I think I'm actually going to do that. 2 mana removal spell on a 0 mana 1/1. Never thought I'd see the day. Okay. I'm going to shut off Silent Clearing. My opponent should sack it for mana here. The reason that I'm not doing this on Inkmoth Nexus is because if my opponent were to animate Inkmoth Nexus, Karn's ability would fail. So we can't actually kill Inkmoth Nexus with Karn. Okay, pass the turn. We've taken them off of all of their colors of mana, though. We're still dead to a Colossus Hammer, but I think only exactly Colossus Hammer. Opponent goes to combat. They do not attack. We untap. We draw Inquisition. Okay, let's wish. I will use his ability. We'll get a Wishclaw Talisman. Play Wishclaw Talisman. Activate Wishclaw Talisman. Go get Urza's Tower. Play Urza's Tower. Play Ugin. Oh, and we can -2, which will kill Wishclaw Talisman. It's wonderful. I mean, they can't use it anyway, but... Okay. Whew! That was close. Yeah, I think we're fine. Run it back. Feed the Swarm on a 0 mana 1/1. I guess if it keeps you alive. This is kind of tempting. We get 2 draws at a second land, and then we can Inquisition with the second land, or with the Talisman. I'm gonna keep because we are on the draw, and it is an Eldrazi Temple. It's a little bit risky, though. Opponent starts playing Sigarda's Aid, Ornithopter. Ornithopter. Okay. That is bad news for us. We draw Power Plant. So, play Power Plant, play Chromatic Sphere. I could have played Expedition Map if we were going to try and Mise into Tron, but I don't think that's a good idea. I can feed the Swarm if my opponent does equip this turn. Okay. Opponent has a Colossus Hammer now. So, feed the Swarm we're going to use to take out Sigarda's Aid so we don't die. Okay, we draw Inquisition. Sack Star for black. We get a Talisman of Resilience. Play Eldrazi Temple. And feed the Swarm on Sigarda's Aid. I could have played Talisman and then Inquisitioned Colossus Hammer from them. But I think taking out the Aid is more important. They could have had another equipment, at which point we would have been pretty sunk. And next turn, if we draw a land, we can play 2 Talismans, which is kind of nice. And by that I mean Talisman of Resilience, not Wishclaw Talisman. Okay, opponent plays a Windswept Teeth. Another Sigarda's Aid. Wonderful. I'm pretty sure that my opponent just missed their opportunity to kill me. Okay. They could have equipped Ink Moth Nexus and just killed me on the spot while we're tapped out, but... Urza's Tower does not do it. So I can go up to 3 mana, I can play Wishclaw Talisman, and I can Wish, but that's all of my mana. And I don't have, like, a Slaughter Pact, unfortunately. Damn, so we really did need to Inquisition there. That did not feel like the right play. Yeah, there's nothing else we can do, I don't think. Alright. I think it was more likely for them to have another equipment than it was for them to have exactly another Sigarda's Aid, but... I don't know. You really could have made either play there, I think. And that felt close. That wasn't, like, unwinnable for us, so... I think this deck is doing quite well for a complete pile of jank. I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, round 4, here we go. I would like to play first. Yep, this is Natural Tron. Well, not Natural Tron, but turn 3 Tron. I'm going to keep. And I'm actually going to start off with Inquisition, I think. Yeah, I'm going to start with Inquisition. Opponent exiled Brazen Borrower. Play Swamp, play Inquisition. Ardent Plea, Brazen Borrower, and Teferi Time Raveler. Take Ardent Plea. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Flooded Strand. We untap and draw another Inquisition. Play Power Plant. Play Chromatic Sphere. Crack Sphere for black. Inquisition. Violent Outburst. I have to have the option of giving my opponent a 7-mana walker or a 3-mana walker. I'll take Violent Outburst. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand. It's a Raugrin Triome. They untap. Play Polluted Delta, so here comes Teferi. They shock Breeding Pool. They play Teferi. They uptick him. We draw a tower. So, play a mine. Inquisition. Brazen Borrower or Mana Monkey. I'll take the Borrower. You can have Mana Monkey. Play map. Play map. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, unsummons map. Plays a Polluted Delta. We untap. Draw Wishclaw Talisman. Play Tower. Play Wishclaw. Activate it. Get a Karn Great Creator. Play Karn Great Creator. Wish for Pithing Needle. Play Pithing Needle. Opponent cycles a Zagoth Triome. Okay. Cracks Polluted Delta. If they have a counter for this, I'm going to be very upset. Because it would have to be a Spell Pierce, and that means it's main decked. Okay, they get a Triome. Play Pithing Needle, and we're going to say Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent upticks Teferi to 3. We untap. Draw Worst Fears. I have a fun idea. Crack Expedition map. They don't have any swamps. So get Urborg. Play Urborg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm dumb. I needed to get a land that generates 2 mana there. Wish with Karn. I just had to cast Worst Fears. Everything would have been fine. We'll get Liquid Metal Coating. Play Coating. Opponent forces. Okay. Play map. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They bounce the Pithing Needle. This presumably means they have a Cascade spell. They play out Simian Spirit Guide, which is not a Cascade spell, and then play a Plains. Alright. Activate map. Get another tower. We untap. We draw Karn. Okay. Play tower. Cast Worst Fears. Pithing Needle. Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter again. Uptick Karn. Pass the turn. So it's our opponent's turn. Okay, go to their main phase. When you cast a spell, exile cards. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Okay? So since it's a may, I should be able to say no. Okay. Okay, we're not going to cast Valky. Then we're going to float mana and pass. Actually, hang on. Swamp, plains, forest, mountain. Okay, I think I could actually kill all 5 of my opponent's lands next turn. So we untap. Draw a Thought Knot. Wish. Oh, we're gonna get Sundering Titan, which I just now remembered. Last night on stream, somebody called it Tsundere Titan. We're gonna get the Tsundere Titan. Note to self: get an alt-arted Tsundere Titan. Man, just as a time warp, that was good. We will use his ability. Get Sundering Titan. Play Sundering Titan. Okay, swamp, island, forest, mountain, plains. Urborg coming in with the land type synergy. Urborg Sundering Titan. Whew, that felt good. Okay, we're gonna bring in Thoughtseize. I'm gonna bring in Surgical. What do I go down here? I'm gonna go down 1 Worst Fears because I don't actually think it's that great in this matchup, and probably should go down like a Dismember here. I don't even know if I'm playing like Fatal Push. I'm gonna cut a Fatal Push for a Feed the Swarm, on the off chance that my opponent just like mulligans into Leyline of Sanctity or something. They're 5 colors, they can play whatever they want. Okay, well, it's a fast Karn, but my opponent is on the play, so hopefully that's enough. Opponent starts tap land. Play mine, play map. Pass the turn. So if my opponent cascades into Valky this turn off of a Simian Spirit Guide, then we're in trouble. They play Valky and can take a Thought Knot Seer. We untap, draw a swamp, play Power Plant, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a Steam Vents. They're gonna go for the Cascade, there's no reason for them not to. Yep. So they play Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter. We're gonna go ahead and tutor up a tower. Okay. Opponent gets a Tybalt, Emblem. And they plus Tybalt. And they hit us for 2. And they hit Plains and Urza's tower. So we draw an Inquisition, which is not super useful here. Play tower. Play Karn. Wish with Karn. We'll get Pithing Needle. Opponent probably has removal for it, but it's our best bet. Pithing Needle, Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter. You know, with this deck running around as much as it is, I almost think it's worth main decking Pithing Needle. Like, the card is good. It has a lot of targets in a lot of different decks. The key is knowing what cards your opponent has in hand by how they play. Like, and especially in Modern, it's harder now with tri-lands, but like, if you can tell by your opponent's land sequence what their mana symbols are and what cards might be in their deck, Pithing Needle could actually be huge. And if my opponent does something like play Teferi, bounce Pithing Needle, attack Karn, we're going to play Ugin, wipe the board. Opponent plays our Urza's Tower. They could turn Valky into a 4/4. That's exactly what they're doing. So they kill Karn. We untap. Draw another Karn. So play a Swamp. Let's see, 4 mana or less. Probably just going to get Ensnaring Bridge. So let's give them the old hand check here. Make sure they don't have anything too annoying. Brazen Borrower. That is what qualifies. So take Brazen Borrower from them. Play Karn. Wish with Karn. Get Ensnaring Bridge. And play it. Oh, I forgot. So they have a Cascade card, and what was the other card again? Simian Spirit Guide. I think they have a Cascade card, Simian Spirit Guide, and lands in hand, was it? Do they have a companion? Oh, they cycled Indatha Triome. We untap. Draw Eldrazi Temple. Do we go for the Sundering Titan here? I think we do. Play mine. We're giving up on our swamp, but we get to take out 3 of our opponent's lands. Okay. Opponent untaps. And opponent scoops. We beat Tybalt! Monoblacktron! We could have won any of these matches, by the way, if I had played better, or sequenced a little bit better, or got a little luckier. Like, we could be 4-0 right now. So this deck seems legit. I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright, round 5. Here we go. It's a little bit dodgy, but I'm going to keep it. I'm probably going to lead on Chromatic Sphere unless my first top deck is a Tron land. And it's a Field of the Dead deck. Okay, I'm actually going to lead on Swamp Inquisition. This is probably Uro, just like the last hurrah before he's actually banned. Opponent, Force of Negation, pitching Cryptic Command. Okay. They had something we really weren't supposed to Inquisition. So they crack Flooded Strand. They get a Breeding Pool. Simian Spirit Guide. Valky. Yep. Well, I mean, I guess that'll do it. He's going to be very hard to beat. Exiling Omnath and Wishclaw Talisman. We draw Expedition Map, so play Urza's Tower. Play Map. Play Map. Pass the turn. Alright, opponent gets an Urza's Tower from us. Exiles another Valky, God of Lies. I know why they're doing the you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast this kind of stuff, but at the same time, I don't feel like a red-black card should grant you that ability. Maybe at 7 mana, not at 3 mana, but, you know, whatever. So my opponent can play Omnath, they can play Valky, and they can play our Wishclaw Talisman. So we're going to go ahead and tutor up an Urza's Power Plant. Play it. Play Chromatic Sphere. Pass the turn. I really doubt our opponent actually does anything about our Expedition Map. They could. Okay, they plus and hit Fatal Push on our side and Ardent Plea on their own. They shock a Steam Vents. Alright, we untap. We draw an Urborg. Sack Star for black. Draw a Thought Knot. Activate Map. Get Urza's Mine. Play the Mine. We are going to Thought Knot Seer our opponent. The problem is they'll get to Thought Knot Seer us and take Worst Fears. Uro and Force. Take Uro. I'm glad I didn't have the opportunity to cast Worst Fears here because they would have just Force of Negationed it, but opponent can just down tick on Tybalt, killing Thought Knot, drawing a card, and then play Thought Knot, and then have Force of Negation. That's pretty good. Here comes Thought Knot. You see we have a Thought Knot and a Worst Fears. If they don't have a blue card to pitch to Force, they'll take Worst Fears. I wish the cards that got exiled with Valky appeared under Valky, Knowledge Pool style. And I keep calling him Valky, but it's actually Tybalt, of course. Opponent takes Thought Knot, so they have something for Worst Fears. Or they think Worst Fears is not going to be relevant. Alright, let's try controlling them. Alright, they drew another Uro. Can't wait till that card's gone. I'm conceding because my opponent can just play another Thought Knot, take our only threat, and beat us down. I'm going to bring in Thoughtseize, I'll bring in Surgical. I'm going to go down Dismember and one Worst Fears and try like this. I could bring in Relic. This is another reason that I kind of want to main deck Relics, is for stuff like Uro, but... well, it's potentially a fast Thought Knot, but not a lot else. Here's hoping we draw Hand Hate and it's relevant. Do they just never not have this? Play Swamp, play Chromatic Star, pass the turn. Uh-huh. Opponent plays a tap land. We draw a tower. Sack Star for black. Come on, Hand Hate. That is not Hand Hate. Play Tower, play Talisman. Pass the turn. Maybe these Fatal Pushes ought to be Bloodchief's Thirst. Because then we could at least use them in theory to kill Tybalt. Okay, Ardent Plea, so here comes the annoying God of Lies himself. So, I know what a lot of people are going to say to me, and already have in a couple of instances, and I'm pretty sure I've figured out a response for you. But Kano, why is it that Karn's okay? It's 7 mana Planeswalker, it exiles permanents, and Tybalt's not. It's just, you play it on turn 3, just like every other thing. That's the problem. You don't play it on turn 3. You play it on turn 1 or 2 off of Gemstone Caverns and Simian Spirit Guide, and you don't have to dedicate 20 cards in your deck to playing it between all of the freaking, you know, spheres, stars, lands, expedition maps. And on top of that, the other thing is every Cascade card is a redundant copy of Tybalt. Every Cascade card. So if I could play a Tron deck that always got Tron and could assemble Tron on, I don't know, turn 2 and never didn't have Karn in it, I wouldn't play anything else. I would only play that deck. Just because it would be tier 0. That's how that would work. Hit to fairy, pass the turn. So they're not the same. Not at all. Opponent upticks Tybalt, shocks a Hollowed Fountain, just got Dismember, by the way. Plays our own Thought Knot, probably takes Fatal Push. They take a Karn. Well, I can play a Karn next turn, but it doesn't really matter, because I can't play Karn and anything else. We get an Ugin, so play Tower. Actually, hang on a minute. Go to combat, attack Tybalt. Pretty sure they have another Cascade in hand. Okay, Thought Knots trade. I draw a card, then they draw a card. Inquisition. Take Violent Outburst. Pass the turn. This is important because they can't just Cascade into another Tybalt and activate him again. I mean, given how far they had to reveal to actually do that, it's probably not super likely. This opponent plays our Talisman, plays a tap land, leaves up Hardcast Force. That's a problem. We draw a Power Plant, play Power Plant, play Karn, it gets forced. Yep. You know what I think makes me the maddest about this deck that I'm playing against right now? It's not even that they're cascading into something broken, and in fact they can do it consistently and before turn 3. None of that bothers me, actually, now that I'm, like, analyzing this. Yeah, the consistency is a problem, and yeah, it's powerful, but the thing that bothers me the most about this stupid deck I'm playing against is the fact that it's 5 colors all over again. So they're gonna ban Uro, and this deck's still gonna be a thing. They better freaking ban it. They better rewrite the rules around Cascade, rewrite the rules around modal dual-face cards. Something. Because I do not want them to ban a 5-color soup tier 1 deck, only to replace it with a different 5-color soup tier 1 deck using newer cards. I would be so unbelievably enraged by that. Sack Sphere for black. Like, I have to hit... Yeah, this doesn't do it. I was gonna say, I basically had to hit the last Tron land or whatever to play Ugin this turn, and now it's no longer relevant. I can tutor for it, but then my opponent gets to tutor, and they'll just tutor for a force. Or, you know, they're drawing force next turn. I had to resolve Ugin that turn. Monoblacktron, is it good? Surprisingly, yes. This deck actually has game, and I didn't really expect it to be as good as it was. I think with some minor tweaking, you could probably get it to, like, legitimate tier 2.5, maybe tier 2 status. Tier 1 in a certain meta call, I could see that being a thing. I would probably drop at least 1 Fatal Push, maybe 2 Fatal Push, or for Bloodchief's Thirst. I could see you dropping Dismember and running a Bloodchief's Thirst instead of that, and maybe doing like a 2-2 split with Fatal Push and Bloodchief's Thirst, so you always draw the one that doesn't work for what you need. I kind of want to see if I can find a way to fit more Thoughtseize effects into the deck, because starting off... Like, this is a weird deck in that it wants to assemble Tron on turn 4. Like, it wants to start Swamp Hand Hate, and then it wants to start playing Tron lands. And so this is kind of like a turn 4 Tron rather than a turn 3 Tron deck. And honestly, if we can find another... If we can reconfigure this list a little bit, we could actually play 8 mana cost threats as opposed to 7 mana cost threats, and just delay by a turn and hope we can make it there with our Hand Hate and removal. If this is the case, you could play something like Ugin, you can play Worst Fears, you can play Possessed Portal. There's a few other 8 mana cards that matter here. So, like, what I'm thinking about, specifically Possessed Portal, and I don't know if this is actually going to be good, but it could be. Possessed Portal basically makes the game stop. It's an 8 mana artifact that says if any player would draw a card, they don't draw instead. And at the beginning of each end step, they sack a permanent unless they discard a card. So we could play, like, Possessed Portal, Spine of Ishsaw in this deck. But I'm not going to go there yet. And I'm probably not going to go there in the near future either. And my reasoning being is the way that I configured this deck specifically was to set up as many draws where not assembling Tron is okay in this deck. So what we're playing is like sort of a black / colorless mid-range deck that plays Karn, that plays Thought-Knot Seer, and then on the off chance it assembles Tron, should just win the game. And has some like cool late game possibilities. Like worst fears, mind controlling your opponent at absolute worst is a time warp. It's an 8 mana mono black time warp, and at best, it's 8 mana, win the game. Just like win. There's nothing else. I love the interaction between Urborg and Sundering Titan. That was a particular highlight for me today. I really, really like that. I don't know if it's good, but like Tron Urborg into Sundering Titan seems decent. Wishclaw Talisman has been surprisingly good while synergized with Karn Great Creator. It does have the downside of if Karn dies unexpectedly and you use that line to get him out onto the field, your opponent's going to tutor for a card that's just going to blow you off the face of the planet, so do be aware of that. Yeah, and I really like Wormcoil as a threat in this deck. Wormcoil as a threat was pretty good. Like, we saw versus the deck playing Lavinia, which I can't remember because that was like way early this morning, and now I'm like way later in the day recording this. Like, Lavinia is great versus standard builds of Tron, like green Tron and possibly blue Tron, but like is not so great versus black Tron at all. So that was kind of cool that my opponent sided in a card that was like totally dead against us. I could see an argument for playing a card like Mind Shatter. The problem is any double black mana pipped card is going to be very difficult to cast in this deck. There were several times where the only time we had like multiple swamps was either A, due to Urborg, or B, due to the fact we got Field of Ruin, and I'm using my memory from last night streaming this as well, like getting Field of Ruin or Assassin's Trophied, or Pathed, basically is the only time we had double swamps. So I don't think playing Mind Shatter as like black 2 colorless Hymn to Turok is good. Mind Shatter, Mind Twist, those kinds of cards you have to play in a deck that like rituals them out. Yeah, I think I've rambled enough. The problem is, I think... Okay, one last little bit of ramble here. The problem, I think, with this deck is it's got like 3 different lines that don't quite synergize with each other, but are close. Like, they kind of half synergize. And what I mean by that is, in Green Tron, the lines are very apparent, they're very strong, and they're very consistent. Like, turn 1, you either go Tronland map, Tronland, Tron Karn, or you go Tronland Sphere Star, Tronland Sylvan Scrying, Tronland Karn. Like, those are the 2 primary lines that are very consistent in Green Tron. When you're playing this deck, you want to go, like, you have several lines. You can go Swamp, Inquisition, Thoughtseas, then you play like Tronland Talisman or Tronland Talisman of Resistance or Resilience and or Wishclaw Talisman, and then you have like Tronland Map, Tronland Tron, but then you have all these black cards in hand that you didn't play. You can go Tronland Sphere Star, crack for black, and then do your Thoughtseize, your Fatal Push, and like those lines aren't inherently bad. The problem is they don't consistently have a good end, and there are certain combinations of cards in this deck that are just bad. And I think that can be mitigated with time, with tweaking, and potentially with new cards being printed. But I really like playing this deck. This feels like a really sweet deck, and if you have the cards, I recommend trying it out. So, okay. Now I'm done rambling. So if you like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few have been earlier. And I want you to know that you're all wonderful human beings. Thanks for watching. And we're up to like 709 subscribers as of this video, which is super exciting. We are almost to monetization, which is 1,000. So that's my goal right now. If you can contribute, I'd really appreciate it. If you've already contributed, thank you. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!